making statements that are not based on any fact without providing any evidence, and they figure because they repeat it 5 times or 6 times or even 15 times, there are a group of people who they think will believe them. You know, for example, one of the things that he said last night in the program was that not one single Guyanese got scholarship from the online gold scholarship. Now there are 6,000 people who got their emails confirming that they got their scholarship, when their program is going to start. You're talking about 6,000 intelligent people, some at master's level, some at bachelor's degrees level, some at postgraduate certificate level, others in preparation for their bachelor's level, and others in other fields. And they will be listening to Sherrod Duncan, and Sherrod Duncan knows that they are part of the Guyanese population. And he will say something like, not one single Guyanese got a scholarship. That tells you the mental state of the man. It is beyond idiocy. It's a perfected art of deception and wickedness that is meant to interfere with the mental health of people in this country. That is why I say it's not just merely toxic. This is designed to create confusion in the minds of people. Because you have 6,000 people with their emails who are shouting hallelujah, thank you Jesus, great government, thanks, pasting on their Facebook. Some of them have actually pasted up their email to say that they got through. And you have a member of a lunatic fringe group who are saying otherwise and expect people to believe them. So I don't know, maybe we shouldn't even have this program to discuss that, because it might be elevating the in your ring to a level that it should never even be elevated, to have intelligent people discuss trash, nonsense, garbage that is spewed from a Facebook post or a feed that really does not resemble the truth, has nothing to do with facts, is not contributing to development, and the participants are equally on the same platform as the host, where lunacy is concerned.
You know, Minister, I wanted to point out also there is a specific part of the program that we would have saw the leader of the opposition and opposition member of parliament, Mr. Ramjitan, stating about the appointment of the Chief Justice and Chancellor of the judiciary, saying that the president does not want to confirm them or keep them in acting positions because there's a threat hanging over the heads of the PPPC administration. What is your response to that?
Travis, there again, any Guyanese who is read, and I believe the majority of Guyanese are well-read, well-schooled, know that our Constitution, as amended in the last constitutional reform process, provides for the leader of the opposition to be meaningfully consulted and almost has a veto power as it relates to the confirmation of the Chancellor and the Chief Justice. This is not something that the president could do by himself. When we were in government, the then opposition failed to participate and allow for the confirmation of the Chancellor and the Chief Justice then. They were in government, we were in opposition. We participated. And the then leader of the opposition said to the president why he does not agree and concur with the appointment, because they were trying to bring this gentleman out of Belize or something of the sort. And they were very grave concerns about him and his impartiality and his ability to function in such a capacity. The president has made it clear we are ready to move in this direction of having a confirmed chancellor and a confirmed chief justice. Mr. Harman must stop playing petty politics. You know, these guys, their politics are infantile. They base their politics on song bites. You know, I heard Mr. Harman using derogatory language. The president already got a certificate from a certain university. I don't need to certify him. He is being paid by taxpayers to carry out the function. His salary is the same as mine. I am being paid as a minister to carry out certain duties as gazetted under my portfolio. So every day I have to go to work and do the people's business to ensure that the sectors that fall under me are properly administered, and I'm paid by the taxpayers to carry out that function. Mr. Harman, as leader of the opposition, is paid the same salary that I get, with all of the benefits that I get as a minister, to carry out the functions as leader of the opposition. You know what that means? He must get up his lazy self from his bed, get down to the office of the leader of the opposition, which is paid for by taxpayers, get his research done, prepares his brief, gets his staff organized, and participate in the matters that he's called upon to participate to ensure that there is good governance, there is political stability, and there is economic prosperity for the people of Guyana. Oppose what you need to oppose, but provide the grounds on which you are opposing. Bring to the people a level of debate that is worth your salt. You can't play this wishy-washy politics and behave like some little schoolboy bully playing cricket, and you know you can't win, so every time the game is about to conclude, you pick up your stumps, you lash down the wicket, you throw the ball in the trench, throw a temper tantrum, go to Facebook to show that you are some kind of a hero, when you know you're just a sore loser. Everybody in Guyana, including APNU+AFC supporters, look, I work in Linden politically on behalf of the government and the party for years. I went to Linden for the Because We Care cash grant rollout to ensure that everything runs smoothly. I had 8 of my other ministerial colleagues were there in Linden. You know what was the turnout? The 2 days in Linden, 98-point-something% of the parents showed up and collected their money after their political leaders in Linden told them, don't participate. So what kind of leadership are you giving? Where the people who you claim voted for you and who you claim in the National Assembly to represent, they don't even listen to you. Since the president has announced the monies to help with the flooding, you know how many people from Region 10 have started contacting me to ensure that they are on the list, and they are, because they want their government to work for them. You know what Mr. Harman's supposed to be doing? If he believes he represents the people in Region 10, he's supposed to be able to produce a list to the Minister of Agriculture and the Minister of Finance that says, make sure these people are up on the list, because these people were actually flooded. Make sure there is no discrimination. Make sure that these people here are on the list. Let me see your list and compare it to my list. But what he does, don't do any political work. Don't represent the people, but sits on a program with a member of a lunatic fringe group and says, there is discrimination in the distribution of the Because We Care cash grant. So we have discriminated in favor of 100% of Guyanese who have children in public schools by ensuring that they get $19,000. When we shared out the COVID-19 cash grant, we discriminated in 100% of Guyanese who live in Guyana. And when we had doubts about if this was one family or 2 families, they got the pink slip. We went back and we did the verification, and we went back and the 100% of the pink slips, we paid the people, so we discriminated in favor of 100% of Guyanese. When you listen to these people, you want to know what has happened to something called conscience? Do you listen to yourselves anymore? So they've lied to the people of Guyana, 2018 December all the way to March 2nd. They go to an election in March 2nd, lost that election, lied to the people for 5 months. August 2nd came, the results was disclosed and declared. President Ali became president, and you're lying to the people because in a statement that was used, that spoke to when the government was installed, the installation of the government, they've used the word installed in such a derogatory manner as if to suggest that the government was not democratically elected. An installation ceremony is an official ceremony where you properly take office. These guys were part of clubs and associations and claimed to be part of the social architecture of our society, whether it's the JCs, the Lions, football. You have the elections of the cricket board, and there's an installation ceremony. You have the change of hands of who is the chairman or the president of the junior chamber, and then you have an installation ceremony. You have an election, elections are declared, you have an installation ceremony. But they're using this language as if to suggest that the Irfan Ali-led administration is not democratically elected because some foreign country in their remarks showed that since they were installed. So they pick and choose and try to create confusion. I believe that what they should have done on that program of the ring, if they wanted to save any face, Mr. Harman should have, and perhaps he should take my advice after this program that we are doing, and he should go back to the same page and says, you know, I would like to apologize to the 200,000 plus people who voted for me. We lied and we deceived and we spread misinformation, but we want to reconcile, we want to redeem ourselves, and we promise you that we will start speaking the truth and we will actually start representing your interests and conscientiously. Please find it in your heart to forgive us. We are your leaders. We thought that this was a way that we could have gone to steal an election, but we discovered that the world don't tolerate rigged elections anymore and stealing of elections and trying to derail democracy. But we're going to follow the democratic culture, and from today we're going to do what is right. Perhaps that is what he needs to do, redeem himself with Ramjatan, who's sitting right next to him, who was supposed to be the prime ministerial candidate in the last election, who sometimes his arguments are so incoherent that you want to know what has happened to his legal training. It's a man I admired. But you see, when you hang out in a certain circle, whatever goes into this, you know, I heard one of my colleagues says today, why don't you use your brain and decipher things properly, to a colleague who was making some remarks that was really outlandish. And I turned to my colleague and said, you first have to have a brain to use it. Stop provoking somebody who don't have a brain. Because it seems that they have done surgery over the last couple of months in that they have removed their brains, their ability to reason, rationalize, analyze, and they have just now filled it with junk, and they're like robots. You are programmed to repeat certain things. So you're not thinking anymore. You're programmed and you go out there and you just, and that's what's happening now. It's disappointing. I mean, it is almost frustrating, because as a political leader, a national leader, I have to listen to these fellows to be able to debate them. I have to listen to them to be able to debunk their errors. I have to listen to them to listen to the recommendations and the suggestions they're making. Sadly, I don't get recommendations and suggestions because I think they're incapable or unwilling, either of the two, either incapable or unwilling of bringing something positive to the table that could help Guyana. It's very, very disappointing.
Minister, I know you would have briefly mentioned President Ali's address. You know, he lists out all of the, or some of the key achievements of the PPPC administration in its first year. And based on information presented in the program, in the Ring program, we've seen Mr. Sherrod Duncan, or the leader of the opposition, saying that this government has been spreading misinformation, that these achievements or these accomplishments have not really taken place.
The line that Mr. Duncan was using to come and to suggest that these are just illusions and we are using them, they're not real. Mr. Duncan, Mr. Harman and Mr. Ramjatan know firms internationally invested money to submit bids to be pre-qualified for the building of the Demerara Harbor Bridge. He knows the names because they were published. These firms are now at a stage of submitting financial proposals by October 3rd to determine which one of them will actually get the contract for the bridge. Isn't that something that is factual? You had more than 42 firms from more than 26 nations around the world participated in a bid, expression of interest for the Quarantine Bridge between Guyana and Suriname. Are you going to deny that this thing is actually in process? The Caribbean Development Bank, whose president visited here just the other day, at the CDB as I speak to you, the pre-qualification of the contractors to the Linden-Lethem Road is being analyzed at the CDB to go on to the next stage of the financial proposals. That is known. Are you going to say these are not things that are... I just used those three things to show that this is not just Guyanese and PPP comrades in a corner say they're doing something. These involve international players, international firms, reputable organizations who are participating in some of these things that the president spoke about. And you're going to say, then do nothing, that is to come. And that explains why I said to people earlier, if you want to maintain a certain level of mental sanity, stay away from this poisonous, toxic, delusional, deceptive group, because they can't help you. They are dangerous to themselves. It's only a matter of time for there to be an implosion among them, because that's the next thing to happen.
Minister, as we're coming on to program time, are there any final comments you would have to share at this time, and perhaps where Guyana is headed regarding?
Well, let me tell you where Guyana is headed, and Mr. Harman and Ramjatan and Sherrod Duncan et al. must get this. The elections are over. The rig has been defeated. A democratically elected government is in office, and people who voted for Granger, the APNU+AFC, Harman and Ramjatan et al. Are participating in Guyana's development. They are there bidding for contracts. They are there seeking employment and getting employment. They are there knocking at the door of the Small Business Bureau to get involved. They are there at the Ministry of Housing to get their house lots and their titles and their lands. They are there signing to receive the Because We Care cash grant. And they are there signing to get their COVID-19 cash grant. And they'll be there signing in another few days to collect their flood relief transfer. People of Guyana are participating even in the COVID-19 environment to ensure that their children are educated. We're trying to get this country back to herd immunity, get vaccinated. They have to overcome the propaganda that is even coming from that very same group as an anti-vax conglomerate that is making no sense whatsoever. Our women, our teachers, our Amerindian brothers and sisters, our senior citizens, whether they voted PPPC or APNU, are benefiting from the restoration of the subsidies for electricity and water. Our miners and our foresters are paying less for equipment because the VAT has been removed. The people who go to the supermarket who have now been able to have more disposable income because all of the food items that were where VAT was placed to them has been removed, they can be able to do better. And they understand that they have a government that is working for all Guyanese. And this is something that cannot be denied. No matter how much they stay behind every bush and call the senior Jumbie. Jumbie behind every bush politics. Soon as they see something, a Jumbie there down there, Jumbie there down there. Scaring people and creating confusion in the minds of people. The bottom line is people have hope. People are getting the real benefits of a government that is working for them. People are understanding that once you follow the systems and the protocols, there is hope at the end of the tunnel. Legislatively, we're making life easier for people. Our allocations are allowing development in every sector. People are becoming even impatient because what do you believe is happening? Development is taking place so fast that when somebody see the street 2 streets away from them built, they expect that the next day their street is to be built. They can't wait because they figure things are happening so fast. I got to get mine too. People are seeing all of that. They understand. Our men and women in uniform who enjoy their bonus that was removed from them by the Granger administration had their bonus at Christmas. Our people in the front line, in the medical sector, had their special bonus extended to them because of their involvement. They are seeing and understanding that they have a government that keeps their word, fulfills their promises, and takes seriously their manifesto commitments, and they are working towards that. And ultimately, after 1 year, people are saying everything is not done, but a whole lot was done. I don't think we have been perfect because that's asking for impossibility. But I'll tell you, under the circumstances, with a serious global pandemic, with serious floods over the last several months in this country, with an opposition that is so irresponsible and reckless, what has been achieved in Guyana is nothing short of a miracle, and I believe in the blessings of Almighty God. So I wouldn't even venture to say more to the 31 people who benefit from taxpayers' money, but are definitely lazy, unwilling, and so inept that they're unable to represent their people properly by coming to the table with something that will really benefit Guyana. We are going forward. Guyana's future is bright. And every day, we in the PPPC, we will work for the good of all the people of Guyana. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Bishop Juan Edghill, and thank you also to you, our listeners and viewers of this program.
Suban, and I took my vaccine, my COVID-19 vaccine, and I want to encourage everyone who are looking at me right now or listening to me on radio to be able to take your vaccine as well. It is very important that we do that, simply because this is something that is spread by humans to humans, and if it is our action that can only help to stop the spread of this pandemic. So I want to encourage all of you. I spent 50 days in the COVID IC unit, and I I documented my story. Many people know what I went through. I saw what others went through. And because I saw and because I know, I want to encourage all of you to take your vaccine. Our collective action can help to stop the spread of COVID-19.
Thank you to you, our listeners and viewers of this special program, where we will be having a discussion based on the In the Ring program that was held yesterday on social media with components of the main opposition, that is Shara Duncan, the leader of the opposition, and Kemraj Ramditan also formed part of that program. I am privileged to have with me the Minister of Labour, Honorable Joseph Hamilton. Thank you so much for being here.
Okay, thank you for having me.
All right. So, you know, as we get right into it, as we analyze the situation of the program, my first question to you, do you think this is a coincidence? I know yesterday government celebrated 1 year in office, and we know the entire accomplishments that His Excellency President Dr. Mohamed Irfan Ali would have listed out. And one of the things that really stood out to me in that speech was that he said it sounds like a 5-year in terms of achievements, but it's just in 1 year. So do you think this program and what was the outcome of the program was coincidental in any way?
No, it was not. What they were attempting to do is to respond to the president's presentation, and they did a poor job of it because they were all over the place, you know, as they say, firing scatter shots. And they sought to condemn some things that we have done. You know, one time they're making this point that we have not fulfilled our promise or some of the promises we made in our manifesto and campaign. And then at the same time, they say that we only did this because our 1 year was coming up. Like the cash grant. They're saying that we only rolled it out because the 1 year celebration was coming up. The point is, since the budget was passed, monies were appropriated for this program on the Ministry of Education. So it was just a matter of time. The fact that we have determined that we will roll it out July, August, because everything that we're attempting to do is to have school open in September. So we wanted to give the family a head start. So they are saying we haven't fulfilled promises, but that is one of the promises we made. We fulfilled it. We said that we will re-employ the CSOs that they fired, 2,000. We have, up to this moment, just this morning, I think the Minister of Amerindian Affairs, we were discussing this matter, and she said that at this moment, I think 2,035 young Amerindian CSOs, they are back earning and learning. And you would know that just 3 weeks ago, I, along with the Minister of Amerindian Affairs, we launched a program to train 420 young Amerindians with specific skills to deal with the equipment that was made available and will be made available to Amerindian communities, to train them as drivers, to train them as servicemen, so that they can properly take care of this agricultural equipment, and to train them also as solar panel technicians. As I speak to you, they are at the Kurukuru Training College, and that training has commenced. Further, the Guyana Water Authority has made contact with BIT to say we need to train several of these young people to man the water systems in the Amerindian communities. So that is another promise fulfilled. The promise to rice farmers and people in the agriculture sector, all of that was fulfilled, that we will reverse the increase of fees. So I can go on and on with the list. Gaisuko and re-employment. We are opening back estates and people are already employed by the hundreds. So they have to decide what they really want to see. One time we are not
fulfilling our promises. And the next time, we are only fulfilling it because we want to big up the PPP, not because we care about the people. So they are confused in this matter. And that is because properly they don't have a response. It's difficult to respond to truth and facts. There's only so much you can fabricate, you know. There is only so much fake news you could spew. The proof, as they say, is in the pudding. People are benefiting. And could you tell a mother that she didn't collect $19,000 each for her children? That has happened in most of the regions as I speak to you. Very shortly, could you tell a rice farmer, a farmer, he didn't collect compensation for his flooded out field? So how do you cast aside things that are real, things that are fundamental to people? Could you tell the elderly people that they are back on the roll where they don't have to pay for water and light? That's real. And as I speak, we're talking about touching thousands of people. So fake news will only last for so long. The people. And, you know, for me, I don't pay attention too much about these guys. I pay attention to the people and giving service to the people. And that is what we do. We don't do these things to be in the good books of the opposition. We do it because we were elected to serve the people of Guyana. And that is what we do daily, giving service.
Minister, just to point out specifically, the leader of the opposition claims that within the year, as you're celebrating this 1 year, there has been zero transparency from the PPPC administration. He believes that the government is really farming off the country to families and friends. What is your response to that statement?
Well, the point is Armand knows a lot about farming of the wrong type and suspect. You know, they have this thing, my good friend, where people see everyone through their own eyes. So if you're a crook, you think everybody's a crook. You know, and that's something I suspect. How we run ministries, how we run government, you think that everybody is like-minded. Everything that we have done and are doing is public information. We plan to build hotels, and via NISIL or CHP, we'll make lands available to people to build hotels. That's public matter. Public matter, you are covering it, the soil is being turned, the sod. Who are the principals? Who are the builder? It's public knowledge. Every week, we make available billions of dollars in contracts to people. All of them pass through the tender board. It comes to the cabinet for no objection, and it is published who win what contract where. So what transparency that we are not being transparent? Everything as regards procurement of vaccine. We make it public, how much money we have spent. Every set of vaccine, we make it public to the people of Guyana who have given us a donation and which one we have to pay for and what are the costs for the vaccine. You know, the leader of the opposition made himself a total fool, seeking to intervene in that matter, and the world laughed at him. First, he started off about we're not getting the vaccine from the right person, the price, the cost, and okay. So dumb, Powell says that the vaccine should be $12. How would the vaccine get to Guyana? Fly? You can fly by itself. You have to organize transportation and logistics. That is what adds the cost of things. When you buy something out of, you know, all of us, we go on Amazon or wherever, and we buy things online. It's not the cost the shoe it come in here for. Their freight and all other things, you know, when Guy will or whoever bring it here. It costs more than you paid for it. Yeah. So that is the world we live in. So the leader of the opposition is yet to understand. A cost at factory and cost landing are different costs because you have other things that are added to the cost of the item. A school child, I believe, would understand that and know that, but the leader of the opposition. Then he moved into whether was the right type of vaccines we're getting. Right thing all over the world. The people who run the vaccine program in Russia, they answered him, and then he questioned the signature of the guy, like you know the guy's signature. You know? So it's one foolishness to the next. But the point I'm making is this. Every action, every act this government has done, we have made it public. So the public is aware of all these transactions, whether in procurement, whether in construction. The bridge, we have 11 persons who have an interest to build the bridge across the river. That's public knowledge. They were published by the Ministry of Public Works. When the bridge to be built across the Quarantine River, public knowledge. A joint venture between us and Suriname. So what we have not made available to the public. You don't just say, okay, we're not transparent. What you think we should make available to the public that we have not made available to the public. Unlike these guys who signed a contract with ExxonMobil in 2016, and we had to beat them over the head to make the contract available to Guyanese. Added to that, they collected $18 million US for signing bonus, and their finance minister said it was a figment of somebody's imagination until we presented the letter in the National Assembly. And then suddenly it's a gift he got from somebody. So you understand me? So they know, they are aware how they govern without no transparency, and they're attempting to suggest that. But the question any journalist must ask them, you can't just say glibly the PPP has not been transparent. Give us an example. I have given you several examples of transparency, of how we have managed the economy. So anytime you ask them a question, ask them, give me specifics. And they will be unable to give you specific issues that we have not been transparent.
Minister, there's also the case where we have seen comments, specifically racially driven comments, that seeks to oppose what President Ali has been speaking about since his inauguration of that one Guyana, creating oneness in the country. How detrimental do you believe that to be, you know, going against what the government believes in, going against what Guyana needs, which is oneness? So, in your opinion?
Let me say, I don't think it's detrimental. You know, let me make this point. The Guyanese people are wiser. And I was just speaking to one of my colleagues, Minister Ramsden. We were looking at politics and thoughts of the younger generation. And I was making this point to him. Look, the PPP in government in 23 years, they caused people to have economic development like they have never had. I'll give you one instance. I know of persons who they were the first in their lineage of generations of people that came since from the slave ship. And they were the first to own a house. You understand that? People don't understand how profound that is. They were living in some house, 22 of them. I'm talking about people by the hundreds and thousands I'm talking about, who the People's Progressive Party civic policies, more so with Irfan Ali, who is now president, as Minister of Housing. They were the first in their generation to own a house. Secondly, there were persons who their parents, grandparents, and whoever dreamt about ever owning a motor car. And you see it. It's parked in the garage. So fundamentally, look, if a man don't have a house, It is easy for politicians to storm him to do mischief. But when he has a house, he's a different man mentally. Because he owns something. When a man don't have a car, it is easy for people to encourage him to vandalize your car. But when he has a car. So the more people's welfare is taken care of, and they become more economically stable, it will be difficult for politicians to stir them up to do mischief because they have to lose. People only protest based on a grievance they have. And with the government's program, once we satisfy all the people's needs, it is difficult for you to stir them up because they know it will be detrimental to their own welfare and their children's welfare, their community welfare. And so, for me, I've lived long enough to know that I have seen a lot of times in this country, the people are wiser now. And that is the major challenge of the opposition. Except for a couple of crazies, they cannot stir up multitudes of people in this country. So the racist ethnic talk, that's the last thing they have to spew. And so they spew it daily. They will continue to do that. I don't know, we can have them change. That is what they do. That is the only thing. They can't speak about policies. They can't speak about development. And so the only conversation is about race-based conversation. And everything we do, they try to farm it in a way whereby we are giving more to our supporters than other people and that kind of thing. Look, any objective person examining our stewardship in government for the last year, we have gone through the length and breadth of this country and have given service to everyone. We don't pay attention to green shirt and red shirt and whichever shirt. We pay attention to the Guyanese people, every minister. And we have been busy doing the work on behalf of the people and giving service. So I don't be terrorized by the language because I'm counting on the Guyanese people. Like I counted on the Guyanese people during the election fiasco. Right through that period of 5 months. Actually, every night I was on television speaking. And I always made the point to people who were concerned, who were terrified, that this can only end one way: democracy will win out. In Guyana presently, this can only end one way: the development of this country of ours. Because the train has left the station. Nobody could hold the train back, the developmental train. It's one way it's going. So, you would see many people who used to chant against PPP, they're joining the train because they recognize that no one can hold the train. No Arman and Ramjatan and Duncan and all of these neophytes in politics could hold back the train of development because people were honest and objective people. They see us giving service without bringing into play your politics and your ethnic origin or your religion. We serve the people of Guyana, and we will continue to do that.
Minister, I know you would have mentioned earlier that you believed the entire live video was based or a response to President Ali's address to the nation. Mm-hmm. But do you feel that there is another end result that the coalition is aiming for by doing such?
No, the thing is, you know, I've been in politics a long time, several decades, and sometimes I wonder about these people. Because in politics, every play you make, it must have an end game. It must have an accomplishment. And every day I see these people masquerading and talking all kind of nonsense, and there is no end game, reason, purpose. So I'm answering you to make the point. Other than fanning flames and trying to stir up people, as regards political satisfaction, because a political party formed itself to acquire power in a state. and to retain power when it gets it. And every strategy, every program, everything you do must be framed in that way. Everything these guys do is opposite to that thought process. Instead of saying things that will benefit people, they're saying things that turns people off. Instead of opening the door to allow for more people, new people to come into the political movement they have, they're pushing people away based on all the stupidity and coming out of there. So I am always baffled as to where this is going, where this will end, because I see no strategy, I see no program that is saying, listen, we want to make ourselves electable in 2025. You know, for us, in government, we are already campaigning for 2025. Because even though we were elected, we ain't take it for granted that 2025 is 2020 elections. They're two different elections. So we were elected in 2020, and we have to do everything possible to ensure that in 2025 we are electable. And that's the reason why you see us every day around this country. Because we want to say to the Guyanese people continuously, you can trust us to run this country on your behalf, to ensure that your children get the service and the benefits, whether in healthcare, as the president said yesterday, education, healthcare, and other social services, easy access to you young people, to house and housing at cheap rates. Those are the things we focus on, because we have to always have ourselves in a position as a political entity that we are able to compete and we are electable. That is what political party does. And I don't see these guys doing anything to make themselves electable. I get a sense, many of them sitting in the parliament there, the only usefulness for them is that every month they collect $200 and something thousand and they get a duty-free concession. You understand me? They bring nothing to that place that can be of beneficial value and use to the people of Guyana. So I don't pay too much mind with Armand and his crew. I put my attention all the time on the people of Guyana. How many more young people I can have trained? How many people who training has never gone to in the Palmer River, on the top of the mountain at Pacaraima, to take training to them. You followed it. So that is my focus. My focus on people who think they can take advantage on ordinary people who work with them. I am saying to them, you wouldn't do that under my watch. So those are things I am focusing on. People will have to work in a safe space. And I'm saying to employers, the law will apply if you attempt to ensure, to think you can have people working for you and you don't ensure that this place is safe. And that's my focus daily. I don't pay too much attention to the noise and the chant and whatever, you know. I hear from time to time they ring people, cuss me out. People say, oh, somebody cuss you out tonight. It's neither here or there with me. I know the people who matter, every day I give them service. And that is what I will continue to do. That is what I'm sure my colleagues, they will continue to do, who are serving as ministers.
Minister Hamilton, as we wrap up this discussion, my final question to you, based on, as we celebrate 1 year of the Air Finale-led government, how satisfied are your overall views on the performance of the government at this time, and perhaps where is Guyana really headed now that we are celebrating the 1 year?
Well, I'll tell you this, you know, I think you or someone asked me, I think the same time we were giving our instruments, asked about being in the cabinet and so. And I made this point, I'm making it again. Look, I think this is one of the best times for anyone to be in a cabinet in this country. Because I've lived long enough to know that it is the first time as a Guyanese, you can feel, touch, and smell development. It's not a dream anymore. You know, and I have a friend who was a couple of years older than I am. He said he would have been glad if he was born like 20 years ago, so that he could have really, you know, lived in the Guyana that he see developing. And you young people, it is your place to take it to a higher place, you know, and I've said that, and I continue to make this point to young people, that for us, we have brought this country to a good place, I think. You have a responsibility now to take it to a higher place, where everyone, wherever they live in this world, they would want to come to this dear land of ours. And so that is a government focus and plan. And you made a point that the first year we were running like it was a 5-year we want to accomplish. There's so much to do that we have to always continue to do to ensure that we can satisfy the needs of the Guyanese people. And so we will ensure that all our commitments we made to the Guyanese people in our manifesto, and when we campaign to win government, all of those are fulfilled, and more than that, like the President has said. And that is our focus. As the President has said, that we have set the platform in the first year to move forward, and you would see more greater things happening in 2022. As I speak to you, the conversation is developing now about preparation of budget for 2022, and therefore I have to be in that mode with the officers there to put together a program and plan to make available to the Finance Ministry to say, this is the way we want to go at the Ministry of Labor. And all my colleagues, that is what they will have to do. So I think all Guyana is in for some good times, developmental times, to satisfy the needs of our needs. And that is the focus of the President, that is the focus of the Prime Minister, the Vice President, and all of us. Every week when we sit down, that's what we discuss. We discuss how we do things and how we do things better to ensure that the Guyanese people get benefit and get service. And that is what we will continue to do.
Thank you so much for stopping by, Minister Hamilton, to share your views in response to the In the Ring program that would have happened last evening, and to just clear the air on some issues that would have arose from that program.
Thank you very much for having me.
And thank you also to you, our listeners and viewers of this